most people are comparing their chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20, somebody else's page or podcast or YouTube channel that they've been building for years and years and years. And it took a lot of failures. It took a lot of mess ups. It probably took a lot of reels that did shit, that nothing happened with them, or episodes that nobody listened to.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
All right, we are live from the Ben Reinberg I Own It studio today in Laguna Beach, California. Once again, we just keep rolling out great guests and looking forward to speaking with this young lady. It should be pretty interesting. So her career journey, our mystery guest, she had a lot of success in acting, fitness. She founded a media company and she's an author now. So we're going to talk a little bit about her new book, which I'm excited to read. So Jen Gottlieb, welcome to the show. It's great to see you and thank you for joining us today on a Thursday morning.
Hey, Ben. So good to be here. Super excited.
So let's talk about your career journey, because it's pretty interesting, and the importance of being seen and the personal brand that played into your success. Let's understand and kick things off and unpack your personal story so our audience can understand who really Jen Gottlieb is.
In order to unpack my story, we probably have to go back to a little Jen. So when I was a little girl, I always wanted to be an actress. That's what I always thought that my purpose on this planet was. Like, since the moment that I could think thoughts, I remember thinking, I love performing. Like, if you came over to my house when I was a little girl, I'd be like, come on, you're coming in the living room, you're sitting on the couch, and I'm going to do a show for you. And it was either like Annie or a Little Mermaid or Wizard of Oz. I'll probably tell you how old I am. Around that time was when I was about 5. And it was everything to me. Just, I wanted to be seen. It was like, see me, look at me, let me perform for you, let me make you laugh, let me make you smile. And I knew from such a young age that that's what I wanted to do forever. So I pursued that basically my entire childhood, young adulthood. And I went to college for musical theater. I went to the University of Hartford, and I quickly dropped out of college because I realized that I didn't want to do math and science and English. I just wanted to sing and dance. So I dropped out, and I ended up moving to New York to pursue musical theater full time. And I went to a musical theater conservatory program in New York City on the Upper West Side, right around where I live right now, like a few blocks away. And right when I was done with school, I ended up booking my dream role in the Broadway national tour of The Wedding Singer. Have you seen the Adam Sandler movie, The Wedding Singer?
Of course.
Of course, classic. So they turned it into a Broadway show, and I remember going to see it on Broadway and seeing this one character. It was Linda, the bitch that leaves Robbie Hart at the altar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I see her on this show, and she's hilarious. Like, the show's a lot different than the movie. And I remember looking at this woman playing this part, and it was like God came down and said to me, you need to play this part. I don't know why. I never resonated with like the good girl character. I always wanted to be like the crazy bitch. And this was perfect. She was hilarious. She was like this rocker chick. So in the book, I talk about the entire story of how I ended up actually playing this role in the Broadway national tour of The Wedding Singer. And it was my dream role, but along the path of getting this role, playing this role, I learned probably every single entrepreneurial lesson that I use today in my life as now a business owner. But I also learned the purpose that I thought was my purpose, and the life that I thought I wanted to live of being this actress was not what it all turned out to be when I actually got it. And I started to notice it, but I like pushed down the thoughts. I was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. When I ended the tour, I came home and I booked a role on a TV show on VH1 about heavy metal music. And this was the beginning of 5 years of my life where I built a brand and a persona online and for an audience of people that was complete lie, because I don't like heavy metal music. No offense to anyone that does. It was a great gig. I love people that love heavy metal music, but I was basically portraying this version that couldn't have been further from who I really was because I had this gig. And I thought that that's what I needed to do in order to be seen and in order to get likes and have a persona and get work and get paid and all the things. All of my worthiness was based upon this lie of this character that I was creating. And I was completely out of alignment. And the further I got down the hole of being this metal girl, the further away I got from myself, the more depressed I became, the more out of alignment I became, the more that inner voice was screaming at me like, Jen, when this all goes away, who the hell are you going to be? Like, what? Like, you've completely lost yourself. And I just kept pushing it down. No, shut up. Just keep going with the flow. I was in a toxic relationship. I was severely bulimic. I was addicted to Adderall. I was a hot mess. And I like to say that when you're out of alignment, or this is what I've learned in my life, a lot of the times the universe will step in if you can't get yourself back into alignment. And shit has to happen for the shift to happen. And so in like a week's time, the show got canceled. The guy that I was with left me for one of my friends. And I found myself with no job, no relationship, no connections, not knowing who the hell I was, and living in this like tiny little room with a window that faced a wall and like 6 other actors in New York City. And I had to figure out who the hell I was and what I was going to do with my life. And that was the moment. I wish it was that moment where everything changed. It wasn't. It was a very big amount of time, but it was the moment where it got pretty low to the point where I was like, something has to change here. And that was the beginning of me building businesses and starting my entrepreneurial journey that, like you said, started with fitness, turned into mindset coaching, and then turned into a PR agency that I owned with my partner Chris, that we exited from last year. And now we help entrepreneurs and business owners build profitable brands online. And we do that in a lot of ways, hosting events and courses, and we're teaching artificial intelligence. We've got an amazing mastermind, and we teach people how to be seen and how to become the recognized expert in their space. So that's the story in a nutshell. There's so much more to it.
But we could spend a lot of time talking more about your story. I love the heavy metal part. I have to go back and look at some clips. I want to see what the hair looked like.
Oh, you can find a lot.
And what you were wearing in those days. That was big back in the mid to late 80s and early 90s, heavy metal. I mean, that was everything in our culture. Let's talk about your book, your new book, Be Seen. So Jen has a new book, everyone out there, and it's called Be Seen. It emphasizes the importance of personal branding and visibility, which is very important in this world of digital presence and social media. I know in my company, we've grown tremendously on social media, and I launched my personal brand, Jen. Don't make fun of me. In 2022, I got online and grew it since. I've been on LinkedIn for, I don't know, decades, because Jeff Weiner's from Chicago, and that's where I'm from.
I'm from Chicago.
You're from Chicago too?
Where are you from?
Okay. I'm from the north suburbs. So I was just there last week.
Blanco.
Oh, you're right next door to Holland Park. That's where I'm from. All right. We'll have to talk more about it. But so let's focus on your book. So it emphasizes the importance of personal branding and visibility. What are some of the key strategies you could share with everyone that help others who aren't getting noticed as much as they would like?
There's so many, and it's ever changing now. But the first thing I want to say to you is bravo. You just said like, oh my gosh, I started like just so late, but at least you started. And that's the first tip that I would give anybody that's listening to this right now, that's sitting there like, oh, I know I need to be seen online. I'll wait until it's perfect and ready. I'll wait till my brand have all the colors and the perfect camera and the perfect lighting and the perfect name for my show. And what I see happening is I speak to hundreds of people every single day, and most people are holding themselves back because they're waiting for the perfect situation. So
well, I'll tell you my story so everyone can learn it. I mean, and everyone knows it's, I had tremendous success in business. I've been in commercial real estate for almost 3 decades and have a large presence, one of the leaders in commercial real estate in the United States. And my staff, my leadership team said, you really need to build your personal brand. And I said, Jen, why would I do that? They're like, well, you have a story you need to share. You need to educate. You have an obligation to share your knowledge to the world. And I said, oh. But I said, what does that mean? They said, well, you have to reveal everything. And I said, everything. They said, everything. You got to tell everything about you. And I said, well, I'm an introvert. And they're like, no, that's not how it works. You got to express yourself. And long story short, here we are today. But I think it's so important. So keep going, and let's keep going with the personal branding. And how do you get noticed?
Well, you have to start. So that's the thing. That's what I was getting to. It doesn't matter if you feel late to the party, and most people are waiting for it to be perfect. And the ironic thing is that the less perfect it is, usually the better that it is, and the more that it relates to people, because people like to follow and listen to and learn from and buy from people that they can relate to. And if you're waiting for it to be so curated and perfect, usually that's almost like becomes banner blindness for people, and people want to come along the journey with you. So stop waiting for it to be perfect and just start today. And if you're introverted and you're nervous to be seen and you're scared to be on camera, that's one thing that you can remember, that it's your responsibility to be seen. I always say visibility is your responsibility, but the way that I overcome that fear, and I talk about it a lot in the book, is I just focus on the acronym HOPE, help one person every day. So I just think about opening up my phone each day and talking to that one person that needs to hear what I have to say that day. And we don't get nervous when we're focusing on just helping someone. If we were sitting at lunch together and you were asking me questions about how to build a brand, I wouldn't get nervous. I would not know what to say. I wouldn't be worried about what I look like. I would just tell you. And I would just be so excited about it. So every time you open your phone to create content, don't wait for the perfect time, the perfect moment. Don't obsess about the colors and the fonts. None of that shit matters. Your brand is you. You are ever evolving. You are ever changing. You are ever growing. Bring people along the journey and just focus on helping one person every day, talking to that person and bringing them along with you. And before you know it, you'll create some consistency, which will create more confidence over time. You'll also create community. And once you start having that community, you feel responsible to show up for them every day. But it doesn't happen overnight. You have to implement consistency and patience. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I posted for a week and nothing happened, so I'm going to give up. Most people are comparing their chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20, somebody else's page or podcast or YouTube channel that they've been building for years and years and years. And it took a lot of failures. It took a lot of mess ups. It probably took a lot of reels that did shit, that nothing happened with them, or episodes that nobody listened to in order to figure out what works. So allow yourself to be a beginner, allow yourself to start, and bring your audience along with you on the journey. And I promise you, I've seen so many people build brands from scratch. That's what's working right now. Being vulnerable, being open, allowing yourself to be messy, and not obsessing over the perfection over everything.
And you mentioned something that's so important in business, whether you're building a personal brand in business for everyone out there, is consistency, reliability, showing up every day. And that's really the key to success, because you're going to have ups and downs, and technology is moving quickly, and different concepts, whether you're building your personal brand or a business, you have to show up every day. You have to bring it every day. And people ask me all the time, Jen, what is the key to success? And it's just being resilient and consistent and showing up every day. So oftentimes writing a book on a topic helps crystallize your thoughts, and it helps you see it in a new light, Jen. So how has writing Be Seen influenced your own approach to personal branding in any way?
What's really cool about this question is that I'm literally reading my own book right now as I market Be Seen, because I wrote the book on being seen and being like there, even though it's scary, and overcoming imposter syndrome and perfectionism and analysis paralysis and comparison and all of those things. And what I'm here to tell you guys, everyone that's listening right now, just take a deep breath, because if you're experiencing that and you're thinking that you are crazy because you're experiencing it, or maybe you'll never be successful because you're experiencing imposter syndrome and fear, it never goes away. Even for somebody like me who has been seen for a very long time, been building this brand for a long time. Now I'm releasing this book into the world, and I'm needing to use my own strategies in order to overcome the fear of being seen. And I think that that's a really important message to share, because a lot of people see people on the internet that are authors and they think that it looks just easy and nobody's nervous and nobody's afraid and the mindset issues don't exist. They do. And what I've learned over the process of writing this book, and most importantly, marketing this book, and my marketing strategy started while I was writing it. It actually started before I wrote the book. And what I've learned over this entire journey is that the key to marketing a book or anything that you want to do is not necessarily the strategy, but it's the relationships that you build, because opportunities come from people. And the entire third section of my book is called Be Connected. And it's all about creating connections and authentic relationships with people so that you can get everything that you want and help people get what they want. And when you create those win-win relationships, that's when you can make the phone call and not feel bad about asking for help. And what I loved about you, Ben, we just met and we got on here and you immediately did the thing that I always love to do with people, and you beat me to it. You're like, anything that I can do to help you, let me know. And we just met. And that's how I know that you're a smart business owner. And that's why, and I immediately thought he's successful, because you have the mindset of giving. And that's the key to building relationships, and the key to getting success in anything, especially marketing a book and being seen and building a brand, is not your social media strategy. It's not how you write your captions. It's not the creative for your reels. It's the people that you meet that will put you in front of their audience, that will collaborate with you, that will give you the tip, that will change the game for you, that will invite you to speak on their stage, that will then promote your Instagram or your podcast. That's what it's about. And what I've seen with the marketing of this book is that this point in time where I'm at right now, where I'm making all of these asks, it's hard to ask, but it was easier for me because I spent years prior to this book building those relationships and being in this gigantic season of giving, so that when this happened, I'd be like, hey, okay, I'm coming in with my ask now. And they're like, of course, you've done everything for me, anything for you. But that wasn't easy and it took a lot of time. So my number one tip for that, or number one lesson that I learned while writing and promoting this book, is that it's relationships, it's connection, it's people. It always is. And even with the help, just the support of writing it. Writing is hard. It's a hard process. It's scary. It's vulnerable. And the fact that I had a lot of people that have written books before me that I had made relationships and friendships with, and they were there for me. It's really about cultivating those circles that can help you when you get stuck. I'm sure you know all about this, Ben, because literally the first couple words out of your mouth told me that that's the type of person that you are.
Well, it's something I learned at a young age. I mean, especially, I grew up learning from some incredible, talented people. And the first thing they taught me is put other people before yourself. Yeah. And if you serve others, the more people you serve, Ben, the greater you'll climb on the ladder. And you'll have more gratitude and more satisfaction in your life. And that's what I preach throughout my company with our employees, is that have gratitude and be thankful for what we have and the opportunities in front of us. And what that does is it puts you in a mindset and a temperament of giving. And I've always found out, and I've written articles for years about this in different publications, of the power of networking, which is your chapter you're referencing. And it's so important, Jen, because when you can give first, you go to a meeting or you have coffee with someone, or if you and I are at lunch, the first thing that I do, and I explain this to people and for everyone out there listening, is understand what's Jen's needs. Yep. So I would understand exactly who she is, what she needs, figure out where the gaps are, and then start helping her. And I don't want anything in return. And guess what? The universe will reward me. There's like weeks or months or years down the road, somehow I'll bump into Jen and she'll be like, you know what? I have this group of investors in New York. They love what you do. They love that you build wealth for high net worth accredited investors and family. I want to introduce you because they're looking to deploy capital and they have nowhere to go. I was wondering if you could help them. She thinks of me because I think of her first. And that's a lesson for everyone to learn out there. It's really important. And so I love your points that you make around how personal branding is an ongoing process, because I'm living it right now with my staff. We have a staff that handles Alliance, my company, and the Ben Reinberg brand. And that your brand evolves over time to stay relevant and authentic, Jen. Elaborate on this further for me, especially around how a personal brand can also feel truly authentic.
It's so important that you stay true to who you are, because listen, I hate to break it to you who's listening, and to you, Ben, like there's a zillion people out there that do the same thing as you or something similar. There's a zillion doctors, there's a zillion coaches, there's a zillion investors. There's so many people, especially now on the internet, trying to position themselves as experts in the same exact space that you're in. And people ask me all the time, how do I stand out, Jen? How do I stand out? Well, it's really easy to stand out. And it's not the thing that you think. The easiest way to stand out is to just be more you, because there's one guarantee, is that there's only one you. There's only one Ben who speaks the way that you speak, who has the story that you have of where you came from and what you had to overcome, and the hobbies that you have and the things that you like to do. So I always tell people, like, make your personal brand personal. It should be personal. You should let people in and you should shine the uniqueness of your story. Like, let that be known. For me, it's like, I never used to want to tell anybody that I was on a heavy metal talk show on VH1 for 5 years. I never wanted anyone to know that. I thought that was...
I actually think that's pretty cool.
Exactly. And the book will talk about finding your lean in story. I realized that was my lean in story in this really crazy way. So when I first started my very first business, which was a personal training company, fitness company, I started getting press for the first time ever. And one of the very first media segments I got was this interview on this show on PBS. And I was so excited. I thought that I was going to go onto this show and teach this lady how to exercise and like talk about healthy eating. So I wore this workout outfit. I was like ready to go. It's a fitness check. And I go and she's wearing this beautiful dress and there's 2 chairs. And I'm like, wait a second. I think I'm like out of place. I felt so embarrassed. I sat down in like my bright sneakers and my workout outfit. And this is where I learned what my lean in story was. She did not want to talk about food and exercise, because everybody talks about food and exercise. She wanted to talk about how I went from being a host on VH1 on a heavy metal talk show and a Broadway actress, and how I transitioned into now coaching some of the biggest CEOs and celebrities in New York City and teaching them how to transform their bodies. She was like, that's the story. That's what I want to talk about. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I guess I'm telling everybody about my past. And the second that I started talking about that, that was when I started building a lot of interest in my brand and my story, because that was the thing that made me different and unique. That was the lean in. So if you're listening, think about the things that you talk about. And when you talk about them, when you say them, people they're like, oh, whoa, really? And they physically are like, oh, wow, tell me more about that. Like for you physically, your whole body changed when I said heavy metal talk show. It was no longer like, it's just pay attention to what other people think. And I think one of the mistakes, well, actually, I know this, one of the mistakes that we make when we think about what stories to tell on social media is we focus on what we think people want to know about. Don't write about and talk about and record and video the things that you think people want to know about. Pay attention to what other people are genuinely leaning in on your story. Like, what are they DMing you about? What kind of questions are they asking you in the comments? What questions do they ask you in your business every single day? What's the most commonly asked question? You may think that that is so boring and nobody wants to know about it, but clearly you're too close to it. And if people are asking you the question, it means that that's the lean in. So don't get your ideas from your head. Get your ideas from your customer's head, your ideal client avatar's head, or actually from their mouth, what they're saying to you, how they're responding to you. Get it from the data.
Yeah, and it's so true. The data speaks volumes. And what's important, and what I've learned in my personal brand, all my colleagues that have started personal brands or are big in the personal brand space, I'm more of an expert. A lot of my colleagues are influencers, and some are experts. But what we realize, and what I've realized, is just be yourself. Just share your stories. People say, share your stories of your career. I talk about first deals I've done, properties we've owned around the country, and what the lessons we've learned, and how do we procure the best financing? How do we deal with challenges? People say, how'd you get started? What was your first job? I talk about when I was 8 years old, and you'll appreciate this. I was selling Marlboro Reds at a bar, Jen, and arbitraging them at the bars in Highwood, Illinois, which I'm sure you're familiar with. When I was a young kid, it wasn't the most ethical thing, but I share it online and share who I am. And so I agree with you. If you're vulnerable, and it's kind of like the foundation of what you're saying is being vulnerable. Be vulnerable and true to who you are. It's very magnetic to your audience and the ether out there that goes on with personal branding. And so let's talk a little bit about what are some of the effective networking strategies that individuals can use to enhance their personal brand and expand their network, especially for those who might be introverted. I'm an introverted person in an extroverted position in what I do for a living, or that are new to networking. Jen, what are some of the strategies people can utilize?
Well, the first one we already talked about, and that's about figuring out what you can do to help people. Going into a room, being the most interested. And this is great for introverts because you don't have to worry about what to say about yourself. You can just go into the room being really curious, or any room, Zoom room, phone call, text, whatever it is. Figure out what you can do to help that person. Figure out what that person needs. Don't flat out ask them, what do you need help with? Get curious. Ask them lots of questions. And then the most important thing about your networking is not the actual networking. It's the follow-up. It's how you come and circle back around. And most people get the follow-up wrong. And I know this because people follow up with me wrong all the time. And I'm just like, can we please work on the follow-up? Because that's the juiciest, best part. That's where the magic happens. The follow-up should not be, oh, hey, just bumping this up to the top of your inbox. I'd love to pick your brain one day and take you to lunch. Don't ever say that. That is a take. Your follow-up should be a give. If you listen to anything that I say to you in this podcast, listener who is listening to this right now, please remember that if you follow up with value, you will be the person that person remembers. And when I say follow up with value, think about a conversation that you had during your initial interaction. Maybe that person said, oh my gosh, I have to wake up early because my kid's very first soccer game is tomorrow. If you follow up the next day and say, wishing Johnny the very best soccer game ever, here's a gift card to, Sports Authority or whatever, like, so that you can go get him a soccer ball after the game is over as an award or whatever. Like, that's above and beyond. I would remember that person. I would immediately follow up and I would say, thank you. Let's get on a call. How can I help you? It's all about being super curious and then using that curiosity and all the information that you find out during that conversation to use in the follow-up to provide even more value and go the extra mile for that person. That is how you stand out and become memorable. And the key to good networking and relationship building is to be memorable. And people love when people make them feel seen. In order to be seen, your goal is to make other people feel seen. And following up like that with value instead of an ask, but a give, and a very creative give, a very intentional, thoughtful give is one of the best networking tools I've ever implemented in my life. And I'm an introvert too, by the way, Ben. So this is very helpful for me as well.
Well, one of the things I do, Jen, is I'm big. I collect wine. I don't drink. I used to drink a little bit more, but once in a while I'll have a glass of wine. But I collect wine, and I'm a big wino. And what we do, what we feel is personal, is
You're a
giving
wine
wine.
drink? Sorry to interrupt. I'm just
No,
curious.
I don't.
I don't drink either.
No, well, I just figured that I'm just not the best version of myself when I drink. I don't like who I am when I drink.
But
And
are you a wino now that you don't drink?
well, I'll explain the story. So when I first got in the business, I was invited by top people in commercial real estate. I was in my late 20s and people were in their 40s and 50s and 60s. I got invited into this group, and you had to buy a case of wine once a quarter, ship it to someone in the group along with the story behind the wine. Okay. So I was a young man and I didn't have money like nearly who I am today. And so buying a case of wine was really expensive when you're in your 20s, and hundreds of dollars. And so that time we'd ship it from my office. I'd ship it and I would basically write the story of the tasting notes, where the grapes were grown, what the region was, what the year was. And so that got me into wine. And I kind of fell in love with the business to realize how cool it is to understand the story behind each bottle of wine in the vineyard and the grapes and how they produced it and why it's special. And so when you can tell the story, and so what ends up happening is when you give a bottle of wine as like a networking gift, like we give with our investors or all the resources around the country we do business with, there's something about a bottle of wine that has this intimacy, this closeness, this sensitivity, this emotion that it portrays when you give someone a bottle of wine. It has this magnetism, this energy that portrays it. And so we found that giving wine is one of the best gifts you can in networking, which really connects people. And so for me, I was privileged. I got invited to this group because it allowed me to meet people, build resources, and become the person I am today. And I'm very grateful for that person that invited me in that group, because it changed my life. And it was just over wine, which I thought was fascinating.
I love that. But do you mind if I challenge you for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Tell
Absolutely.
everybody when that would be a bad idea, because I love that so much, but it could be a bad idea. And here's why I'm going to tell you: only in certain situations.
Yeah.
My husband is sober and he's very public about it. I also don't drink. So if someone sends me a bottle of wine, I immediately think they're not being thoughtful, and it's a thoughtful gift. So make sure you do your research. If someone is definitely someone that drinks and they love, that's a fabulous gift, right? Telling the story about the wine, it's perfect. It's amazing. What a great gift. Like what you just said, it creates connection. You send the story. It's very expensive. It's luxe. It's beautiful. But if someone is not a drinker and someone in their family is sober, definitely don't send them wine. Or if you know that someone's allergic to flowers, please don't send them flowers. If someone doesn't eat gluten and dairy and sugar, please don't send them cookies. It actually can do the opposite. And I've seen that happen. I'm like, wait, how did this person send me a bottle of wine? They know nothing. They cared about nothing. They totally just like phoned this gift in. And then I'm like, like that wasn't a strong follow-up. A stronger one would be, let's say you do your research and you go on Instagram and you find out that that person just like has a 2-year-old kid and that kid's name is Sophie. What if you sent a backpack that said Sophie on it for their child? Like that would be a really thoughtful, right? Gift if you know that they don't drink.
I agree with you. We do the same thing in my office. We'll do a deep dive on everyone. So for example, during the holidays, one thing that irritates me is I have celiac and I'm gluten-free, Jen. And so we have relationships that have known me for decades, and they send me cookies and cakes, and I don't really everyone knows I'm a health nut. I'm a health and fitness nut. Everyone knows I train at least 5 days a week and I'm into my health. And so I love sugar. I'm a Swedish Fish fan. Okay. I'm guilty of candy, and people know that, and that's fine. But like when people send me like, a pie or a cake or whatever, and it doesn't fit my persona, I agree with you. So you're absolutely right. It's a great point. And we do the same thing in my office. One thing we do is with our employees, we find out, so we do a life book on everyone, Jen, and we find out personally what they love and who they are, what they want in their career and their future. And then we could model different aspects of their life to our business. So for example, we have one lady who works for me. She likes to rap. like not wrap gifts, actually wrap.
Yeah.
So we give her assignments for holiday videos and say, come up with a wrap. Or we might say people like to journal, so we buy them journals. So I agree with you. There is an art to find out what people love. And when you find out what they love and you can give them a gift, or you're networking with them and give them advice or whatever, it's priceless. They don't forget you. And so it's a great point.
Key to networking is really seeing.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to the book. Like people ask me, what's the secret to being seen, or what does being seen mean to you? And I think that being seen is so much more than people actually just seeing you on the internet and you building an audience. I think that being seen really starts with, number one, seeing yourself for who you really are, so you can allow the world to really see you. But then number two, being so yourself that you have the energy and the capacity and the love to just see other people and really truly see them, and not just pretend you're seeing them, not looking right through them, not just, going with the punches and going with the flow and just kind of like glazing over, but really seeing people. And that goes to this idea of following up with value and like really thinking about the thoughtful gift and making somebody else feel seen. Because when you can just make somebody else feel seen, they're going to want to do the same for you. And I love what you said in the beginning is it might not necessarily come back from that person at that moment, but it will come back to you eventually. Right. It doesn't. And don't give with an expectation of getting, because you might not get. And you shouldn't give with that expectation. You should give just because it feels amazing to give. It feels incredible. And you're putting that give out into the universe. It will come back eventually, but just relish in the goodness of how that made you feel when you were able to make someone feel seen. And then trust and know that it's also your greatest networking tool.
And the key to all this is listening. Is being present and seeking the truth in what other people are saying. So if I'm sitting with Jen and we're having coffee, or I'm a tea drinker, I don't drink coffee, but we're having tea together, and I'm hearing her challenges and listening to her, I can then respond to see how can I help her. And that's really listening is so important in life. And a lot of people, especially younger generation, they're looking for themselves of how can I benefit myself, instead of understanding if I listen to this person and understand how to help them, my whole world can open up with opportunities. And so let's talk about brand risks a little bit and risk taking for the personal brand. How do you see risk taking as a key element of personal branding? And how can individuals out there use it to stand out in their respective fields?
I think when you say risk, brand risk, what do you mean? Like sharing kind of unpopular opinions, kind of being a
It's like, whether you have certain boundaries and you're going past boundaries and you're taking risks, or you're worried about, in this culture, as we live in a cancel culture. It seems like you can't breathe wrong without someone getting upset. And it's a big topic out there. I mean, it's unfortunate, Jen. I mean, obviously, you're a little bit younger than me, but we have obviously some commonalities in our lives. And it just seems that, you can't free associate and have an open conversation with someone without being judged, or taking a risk to express yourself to help someone without someone getting bent out of shape, because everyone has different lenses how they see things. Yeah. And one of the biggest challenges that I see out, especially in social media, is that people do not understand the context. People don't understand the truth behind someone saying, and people start judging and start going down the road where they want to cancel you instead of understanding the benefit to what someone's saying or why they're saying it. And so I think more people are stressed or concerned about taking risks because they want to get their brand out in the ether and they want to grow and expand. But there's this glass wall and this glass ceiling that surrounds them, Jen, to say, well, I don't know if I should do that because it's not going to go well, or maybe my employees aren't going to like it, or I'm going to irritate someone, instead of just doing it and saying, you know what, I'll apologize later for it because I'm doing it with good intent and it's coming from my heart.
I think it's finding a happy medium. So I do think that we need to be more aware now than ever about the things that we say. And I do think also, though, that we can't hold back because we're fear of judgment. There's always going to be haters on the internet. There's always going to be people that don't understand you. There's always, if you're being seen and you are positioning yourself as a thought leader in any area, or even just sharing your journey with people, there's going to be people that don't like it, that don't understand it, that don't get it, that you activate them. And usually the only people that are commenting negative thoughts or negative comments or trying to cancel you on the internet are people that are not happy people. That's what I've noticed, because I know a lot of really successful people. None of them are spending time commenting negative things on people's pages, like none of them. So anyone that's doing that, just keep in mind, I always have empathy for those people. I absolutely do, because I'm like, that person must be hurting. They must be in pain. I must have activated something within them. And so, fine. However, at the same time, be kind. Just be kind. If you're a kind person and you have good intentions, it will be hard to get canceled. Be kind. You can stand for what you believe in. You can be true to who you are. You can share your story and share your opinions and share your belief. But I feel like as long as you come from a kind place and you're not just like, you're not trying to hurt people, you're not trying to bring people down, and you have good intentions and you are a kind, loving, compassionate person, as well as at the same time sharing your truth, I think you're going to be okay. It's when people start to get out there and try to put people down or try to manipulate the internet or try to just cause a ruckus or try to say something on purpose just to get a whole bunch of likes. It's that, and they're not really sharing their truth. They're just trying to manipulate things. That's when you can get into trouble. Get online, share your truth, be a kind person, be a good person, and those people will be fine. But if you're out there on the internet and you're really worried that you're going to get canceled because you're about to make some noise and you're about to like stand in it, like, then know that that's a risk that you're taking, and weigh out the risk reward, and know that this is the world that we live in. That you will get pushback, you will get people that don't understand, you will get people that might judge you. And what's your relationship with that? If you don't care, that doesn't bother you, then fine. And it's really all about your values, your integrity. And I found that good people usually, if they say something and they mess up and they make a mistake, like if you're a good person, you can come back from it. It's the people that aren't, that don't.
And how the universe works, there's always positive and negatives that balance each other out. If you're going to be successful, and I can tell you from personal experiences, the more successful you are, you're going to have the haters and this negativity, and it will balance out. And so as you get older, your skin gets thicker, and you just have to realize that, you're not going to please everyone. And so whatever you post or whatever's out there, or stories or reels, are not going to be perfect. You just got to pull the trigger and move forward, and have confidence and not worry about failure. It's like on Yelp. I never understand this. Okay. And you have to explain this to me, because I don't understand how people have the time to do this. They go out to a restaurant. I eat out at restaurants. I'm a big foodie, and people go out and they go back home and they go on Yelp and they criticize the restaurant. And it's like, who has time to do that? It's like, just go there. If you go there and you say, you know what, the salmon sucked. Okay. You tell your significant other, salmon sucked. Let's get out of here. And you don't go back to that restaurant, or maybe you go back and you have a different experience because you have a different dish at that time. I never understood that concept where people have the time to criticize. I don't even know how people have the time to comment on social media. It's unbelievable, because people are like, why don't you comment on social media? I'm like, I don't have time. I have staff that does it. That's what
Well, if it was a priority to you, you would make the time. That's
exactly.
So it is a priority to these people. I don't believe in not having time. If you want to do something, you prioritize it and you make the time. So everybody has the time. They just either choose to use it or they choose to don't. So the people that go and they comment negatively on Yelp reviews, they're making the time to do that because that makes them feel seen and it makes them feel good. It makes them feel seen, for them to be able to voice their opinion and for people to read it. Just like that is like a way of them being seen. And that's the way the world works now. Now restaurant owners need to know that there's going to be Yelpers that come in and say negative things. And that's another thing that we just have to deal with. Just like when you're creating content on the internet and you're trying to help a whole bunch of people, you're going to help a whole bunch of people. But with that whole bunch of people, there's going to be several people that are activated by whatever you post and they want to feel seen and important, or maybe they're hurting in some way. And you have to understand and know that like that act of them going online and doing that, it doesn't come from them being so joyous and happy with their life and so successful. It comes from a place of probably being in pain and something not feeling good within them. So they need to go bring somebody else down. So whenever I see that, I just try to implement compassion. Like, that's the way that person's going to feel seen right now. I'm just implementing compassion, and this is the way the world works now. And I have to just change my relationship with it. Like I got to understand and know that that's part of the game and not let it affect me and move on. And sometimes it stings. Sometimes when you read negative comments, like you got to acknowledge that, like, oh, fuck, that stung. Is there anything that I can learn from this? Is there any reality to this? Is there some, like, can I be self-aware enough to know, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that way? Or did I do this wrong? Because we're always growing. We're always learning how to communicate better. And sometimes the haters can give us a tip. And sometimes I'm grateful for them. Like, thanks, I shouldn't have done that. But it's my therapist always asks me, what do you want your relationship with that to be? This is the reality. What do I want my perspective of it to be? I get to choose that. So if I can come at it from a place of love and compassion, like, this is what it is, and I love you, like, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, like, and then I can move on a lot faster. And that's my perspective with failure. That's my perspective with rejection. It doesn't make it sting any less, but at least I can have that second thought where I can go from my first thought being, oh, that sucks. Oh my God, I hate you. Oh my God, this is terrible. To wait a second, Jen, shift your thought. I can choose the second thought. Can't choose the first one, but I can choose the second one. What's the reality here? And take a step back and choose my perspective and my relationship with the situation.
It's so well said, because years ago I got involved in personal development, and I learned a long time ago, if I always come from a place of love, and there's byproducts of what that means, instead of fear, I'll always win. I never have success, for everyone out there, when you come from fear. And it's amazing how, if you can constantly produce yourself to be in a state of love or act in a state of love, how much results and success come from that. But not only that, your relationships, you connect with people better. And when you're happy with yourself, everyone externally will just feed off of that I've learned. And it's so well said. And I appreciate you saying that. So let's talk a little about Super Connector Media. This is the company you just exited. People love what we do. We bring in high net worth accredited investors and families that invest in our funds and syndications around the country. And so we're continuing to raise capital. Did you need to raise capital when you started Super Connected Media, or was it just off a shoestring? And what was your approach to process of starting and funding Super Connected Media when you started?
Yeah, well, first of all, we still own Super Connector Media. We sold our PR agency that was a section, kind of like a portion of our company. But our company was born from an event. My husband, before I met him, was doing these events called Unfair Advantage Live, where he would connect entrepreneurs to the media. And when I came into his world, I was very well versed in media and marketing, and most importantly, like the mindset, the confidence piece of putting yourself out there, and the whole thing that I went through with my acting career. And I started going to these events, and I started meeting the people, and we started coming together, and we're like, what if we made this something bigger? So we started creating bigger events and more events. And then pretty soon people came up to us and they're like, hey, can you teach us how to do this? So we're like, okay, we can teach you how to get in the media. So we started teaching it. And then pretty soon somebody else came up to us and they were like, hey, can you do it for me? I don't want you to teach me. I want you to do it for me. So like, sure, we can do it for you. So we had one agency client. It was kind of on accident. And then we all of a sudden had another agency client. And then we had another agency client. Before we knew it, we woke up, we had this huge PR agency. And it happened as a result of showing up, being seen, building brand, doing what we teach people to do. We literally built our business doing what we teach. And the crazy thing about it was we never meant to have a PR agency. What we love to do is to teach and empower entrepreneurs to implement the skills on their own. And we were doing it for people. We had a whole, we had like an entire team of publicists that were working for us. And we were like, we don't love this. What we really love is like our events that we're doing and our group programs that we're doing, where people are going and getting the same, if not better, results than our agency clients. And they're not paying us $15,000, $20,000 a month. They're like, they're like doing this on their own. They're going to have this information forever. And it just felt so much more fulfilling. And we were like, what could happen if we just got rid of this very profitable part of our business and put all of our time and energy into the thing that we loved the most? And the thing that lit us up and the thing that we were the most passionate about. So we did the thing that most people wouldn't do. We took a very profitable company and got rid of it and probably sold it at a really low price for our heart. to be happy and to feel more in alignment and to build, the thing that we really want to build. And it freed us up and it created what we have today, which we just got back from doing our biggest event ever. We had like 540 people, some of the biggest speakers in the world. It was called Build Your Brand Live. It was epic. And it was just like the beginning steps of what we plan to create now that, when you say no to something, you're saying yes to so much more, and creating space for something more. So we had to say no to something that was working in order to build something that we're betting on, but we like it so much more. And it's so far a massive success.
What are the takeaways if someone went to that mastermind that they would, so for the future masterminds you have, so the audience can know if they go to your mastermind, what are some of the takeaways, the expectations from your standards that they can walk away with by investing in your event?
So the event, we have a mastermind with almost 300 people in it. But the event was for everybody, not just for our mastermind members. We had pretty much all of our members were there, but about over 500 regular attendees at this event. And what you can expect to come away with from our event is everything that you need to build your brand, but so much more. Because really, if you're not being seen, it's not because you don't know how. It's not because you don't know how to write the perfect caption. It's not because you don't know how to make the post, to go live. It's not because you don't know how to make the reel. It's because of the 4-letter F word, fear. And when you come to Build Your Brand Live, we don't just teach you strategy. We give you a community. And the people that come to our events are the best people in the world. I just have to say they are, because we create a space for connection. It starts with networking. The magic doesn't happen on the stage. Well, we bring in the biggest speakers in the world. We had #1 New York Times bestselling author Gabby Bernstein. We had Billie Jean. We had Cody Sperber with Clever Investor. We had Vina Jetty, who's done over $1 billion in revenue, all of her real estate experience.
I know Vina Jetty.
Yeah,
I was just with her a few weeks ago. Great lady.
So we had some of the biggest speakers, but it wasn't even about the speakers. It was about the experience that our attendees had with each other. We had content creation stations all over the place. Everyone was creating content together. We do dance parties. We create an experience that helps you be your most authentic self. And when you can free yourself from the fear of what other people think of you and the fear of what other people are going to say if you post online, and you just start taking action, you're going to be successful. And the best way to take that first action step is with a community of people that support you. And so we create this space where everybody's on the same playing field and everybody supports one another, and we create a family. So that's what you can expect whenever you come to anything of mine and Chris's, including Zoom calls, including our challenges, anything online. We create that exact same experience everywhere, because I always, event planners always ask me, they're like, Jen, what do you want this event to be? What's the most important thing to you? Like they ask, is it the colors and the way that it looks? Is it the lighting? Is it the gift bags? Is it the speakers? And I always say, no, none of that shit matters. All I care about is the feeling that we create. That's it. I want people to walk away from this event feeling like they can take over the world.
Oh, that's great. I love that. So in your personal and professional journey, Jen, you've grown and started to build wealth for yourself. You and Chris have. Are there any specific lessons or experiences that have shaped your perspective on your growth and your success that you kind of realize, okay, now I'm at this point, and some of the lessons you've learned as you've grown financially and personally?
So many lessons. I feel like I'm learning a new lesson every single day. The number of lessons is I'm never done learning, and I don't know shit. One is like, other people have done what you want to do. So hire mentors, listen, learn, listen more than you talk. I think there was a lot of times in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey where I felt like I just needed to do, push, achieve. And now I'm taking a lot of time to sit back and listen and watch. And I try to listen and watch more than I do. And I definitely am a fast action taker, and I take action quickly, and I pivot quickly, and I take risks, but I do it as a result of listening, as a result of paying attention and learning and understanding and knowing that I don't know a thing. And the reason that I say that is, yes, I know a lot, but compared to what I'm going to know 5 years from now, if I consistently learn and listen and watch, there's so many people who have done exactly what I want to do, and they've already done it. So use their blueprint, follow in their footsteps, learn from them, whether you're meeting them in person, this is for everyone that's listening, or you're following their content, you're listening to their podcasts, you're reading their books. You can't do this alone. And mentorship has been so important to me, and surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me, that are richer than me, that are wealthier than me, that have done it before me. And I always like to be I know this is very cliche, but I like to be the least successful person in the room as much as I possibly can, so that I'm always stretching. I'm always forcing myself to believe a little bit more, to see what's possible, to force myself to do the uncomfortable thing. And the more that I do the uncomfortable thing and get into my bed that night and realize that the uncomfortable thing didn't kill me, the more I can get up and do the uncomfortable thing the next day. So confidence is built not by doing the easy thing, but doing the hard thing, by listening, finding out what the best thing is to do, and then most importantly, implementing it, even if you're not ready, maybe shitting the bed, maybe failing, but at least I ended up in my bed with a lesson that night. And a lesson, most importantly, that I'm capable of pushing past my comfort level. And that is just like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And hopefully I will continue to grow every single day with this strategy that I've been implementing.
It's true. It's being uncomfortable produces growth. That's the only way you can grow. You got to be uncomfortable. It's been the story of my career in life. You got to be uncomfortable in order to grow and succeed. And so I appreciate that. So when's the book officially dropping, as we say?
October 31st.
Oh, Halloween. Look at that.
On Halloween.
And how do folks pick up the book?
Well, it's everywhere and everywhere. So you
so just Amazon and anywhere you can get the publications.
Yeah, if you go to beseenbook.com, there's a lot of free bonuses and goodies that you can pick up there.
So there's a website, beseenbooks.com.
With no S.
With no S. beseenbook.com is the way to understand the book and follow and see where you can acquire the book. What's the best way for people to stay engaged with you, Jen, and follow you? Like, what's the best way to keep in touch with you, our audience?
Instagram's where it's at. Just so simple. Okay. So there, I go live every morning, every day, no matter what. So you can find me, and I'm in my DMs. Shoot me a message. All
right. And do you respond to people that DM you?
It is me. It is not.
It is you. Okay, that's fantastic. Activity. Well, Jen Gottlieb, we're gonna wrap up with our 3 questions. I've been waiting for you to come on. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. In Laguna Beach, in our studio, we have a couch. And if you were in studio, and you're always welcome to come in, I'd say lay on the couch, kick up your feet, relax, go back to, I ask every woman this, don't be offended. How old are you now?
37.
37. Okay. So by the way, you look fantastic. You have to tell me what you're doing for health and fitness, because it's definitely working. So whatever you're eating and doing, so you're doing a great job. Keep it up. So go back to when you were 16 years old.
Okay.
And all the knowledge you've acquired, you've been through some rough waters. You've been through some challenges in your life, and you can go back to when you're 16. What would you tell yourself to help yourself get to this point in life?
Nothing that you're worried about right now is going to matter.
It's so true.
Nothing.
It's all an illusion.
Nothing. That's what I would say to my 16-year-old self, because I was so worried about going to the cool place with the right guy and the stupidest things in the world. I don't talk to any of those people anymore. None of that stuff even matters. I wish that I would have spent time building myself up, growing my career, getting more into personal development, discovering who I was, being okay with who I was, not trying to be perfect for everybody on the planet, not trying to care about the superficial bullshit. None of that stuff matters. So if I could, I have a 14-year-old stepdaughter, and she's so smart. She knows none of this stuff matters because she says it to me, which is crazy. But I say to her all the time, this mess right now that you're dealing with these boys and these cliques and all this stuff, not going to matter at all. It's not even going to be a moment in time in your life when it matters. And she's like, "Oh, Jen, I know, but I didn't know when I was 16." So that's what I would say.
It's cute. It's a good story. So it's our last day on earth. God forbid. It's just me and you. It's our last meal together. Your choice. What are we eating and what are we drinking?
You don't want to be with me on my last.
Well, I'm going to tell. I mean, I look at.
But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be eating.
You're so skinny on the other side of the screen. I want you to kind of get out of your comfort zone and maybe do something crazy. Let's go.
Well, we would be eating burnt vegetables.
Vegetables, okay.
Vegetables and grilled Chilean sea bass. I like crispy burnt broccoli and burnt Brussels sprouts.
Oh God!
Like coconut aminos on them, some yellow mustard, and some grilled Chilean sea bass, preferably miso Chilean sea bass, my favorite. And then for dessert, we would just have like some coconut, like vegan ice cream, and I would be in heaven.
We might get an extra day out of this meal.
What do you mean? Oh, because it's so good and creative.
It's got a little health to it. I haven't heard the burnt vegetables. I'll have to try that. So
I live for burnt vegetables.
So you're going to love this last question.
Yeah.
Okay. So in our studio in Laguna Beach, we have a black door. And in studio, if you've ever seen our studio, we have grand piano, we have a drum set, electric and acoustical guitars. And if you're sitting with me in studio and I could say, Jen, look, you can bring any band or musician to walk through that black door and play us a song. Now, they can be living or deceased.
Can I answer now?
No, you got to let me finish the question. They can be living or deceased. Okay.
Yeah.
Who is walking through that door and what song are they playing us?
Oh, no question in the entire world. It's Michael Jackson and he's singing Man in the Mirror.
Oh, that's great.
No question.
Love that.
That's like, I could answer that all day, every day.
That's fantastic.
He's my favorite artist.
Well, Jen Gottlieb, her new book's coming out shortly. Go to beseenbook.com and follow her on social media. Are you on TikTok as well?
I am on TikTok.
Okay, so she's on all the social media platforms. You'll find her. Well, thank you for joining us on the I Own It Show. You do own it, so we're glad to have you today. If you're interested in listening to more episodes of the Ben Reinberg I Own It Show, kick that right-hand button and click subscribe. Feel free to click the like button as much as possible because, as I always say, let this content go viral. And to follow me, go to benreinberg.com. You can follow me on all the social media platforms. And yes, Jen, I am on TikTok as well. And if you are interested, if you are a credit investor and you're looking to build wealth and a legacy for you and your family, look no further. Go to my company, AllianceCGC.com. We are the leaders in investing in commercial real estate around the United States. Feel free to log on to our new fund, the Alliance Medical Property Fund. It's one of the hottest funds out in the United States right now. It's going to sell out shortly. So again, it's AllianceCGC.com. Jen Gottlieb, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure seeing you, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
So fun. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.